Michael, what's happening, brother? Hope you had a good week. So, we collectors are constantly buying up all these horror movies and throwing them on our shelves, so we have these big, impressive collections. But I can only speak for myself, and as somebody with a wife and a job and 2 kids and 3 YouTube channels and an eBay business and a fucking partridge and a pear tree, I never seem to have the time to watch the damn things. So, I started last week on a journey of doing what I can to watch as many of these things as I can. Quite frankly, I don't know if I have enough time remaining in my life to watch all the movies that I haven't seen, but I sure as hell am going to give it a shot. So, this week I got through 6 movies, and I'm here to tell you about what I watched. This, I should say, or these are the horrors that I've seen. You ain't got nothing to add to this? Nice, Michael.
My friend of misery. My friend of misery.
As always, I hope you guys are doing well and staying safe. All right, so the first thing that I watched this week, I'll tell you a little story as to why I watched this. My son went on a week-long camping trip last week, well, the week before, and we picked him up last Friday. We had to go through a trail, get through the woods, and once we got through that trail, the woods opened up to a great big lake. And of course, being the horror fan that I am, I said to my son, how could you be out here and not immediately think of Friday the 13th? And he said, well, of course I did. So when we got home, he suggested that we watch Friday the 13th Part 2. I said, you don't want to start off with Part 1? And he said, I like Jason more than I like his mom. So I get it. We watched Friday the 13th Part 2. I have to assume that all of you out there that are watching this video have not only seen Friday the 13th Part 2, but seen it 400 times the way I have. Fantastic movie. It's the movie that actually introduces us to Jason because, spoiler alert, if I didn't already spoil it for you, Jason's mom is the killer in the first movie. It's only 42 years old. I'm assuming most of you know that by now. And if you don't, sorry. So this is the movie where we have Sackhead Jason. He does not have his hockey mask yet. The movie begins with him getting revenge on the girl that killed his mom in the first movie. Spoilers galore. But it's a fantastic movie. Arguably the best final girl in the entire Friday the 13th franchise. It's excellent, and I can't say enough good things about it. And I'm not going to say anything more about it. Friday the 13th Part 2 is an absolute classic. The next thing I watched, it was on the 4th of July, and I felt like watching something that kind of gave a nod to the people who have served our country. So what better way to do that than to watch VFW. This movie is absolutely fantastic. This was a first time watch for me. I tried watching this before and something came up. I had to stop like 15 minutes into it. Sat at the side, never got back to it again. This is a group of Vietnam veterans. I think it was Vietnam, maybe Korea. I don't remember all the details of that, but I believe most of them were from Vietnam. And after they get out of the military, they decide to open a bar together. After they open this bar, they're in there one night. It's like a star-studded cast. It's the guy from Don't Breathe, and it's the guy from The Karate Kid and Cobra Kai, and it is the guy who was in The Shawshank Redemption, and I believe he was Death in the Bill and Ted movies. One dude that was in a bunch of black exploitation things. George Wendt is in it. He's the guy. He's Norm from Cheers. Most of you probably know him as Norm.
Afternoon, everybody.
Oh,
Norman.
but what would you say to a nice beer, Normie?
Going down.
Awesome cast in this movie, and there's like some other little squirrely guy in there that I know him. You know him, I'm sure, but I can never remember where I've seen him. He's one of them guys you've seen in 800 movies. I think he was in The Crow, maybe. Whatever. So these guys are in the bar one night. There's a bunch of drug addicts running around outside. Doing a drug that, if I remember correctly, is called hype. So the people who do them are hypers. Shit goes sideways. one of the people from that group of people, like a gang, winds up inside of the bar. She brings in the hype, and then you basically have an all-out war between the veterans and the drug dealers. That's what this story is more or less about. Very, very good movie. Nice and gory. Really cool story. Pretty good effects. I don't know what the budget was on it, but it doesn't appear to be a movie with the biggest budget in the world. And one has to assume that the overwhelming vast majority of this budget was spent on the cast of veterans who own this bar. Excellent movie. I've been wanting to get to this thing for a while, and I'm glad I finally did. It was fantastic. Check out VFW if you haven't already. The next movie I watched was on July 5th when I realized, oh shit, I forgot to watch Jaws on the 4th of July. I watched my 4K copy of Jaws, a lenticular cover, very nice. This is the second or third time that I've watched this. This is absolutely, hands down, one of the most beautiful 4K scans that I've seen reproduced, or produced, produced that I've seen so far. And to make such an old movie look so wonderful is a pretty impressive task that they achieved there. Everybody knows Jaws. Big ass shark eats a girl, then big ass shark eats a kid. They're supposed to close, everybody wants the beach closed on the 4th of July, but the governor or the mayor decides not to close the beach. And then the shark just keeps eating some bitches. They go out, they gotta hunt and kill a big ass shark. If you guys don't know Jaws, you're killing me. Watch Jaws. It's part of your obligation as a horror fan to watch Jaws. If you consider Jaws a horror movie. A lot of people don't, a lot of people do. Big ass shark eating people in the water, scared the shit out of me. It's a horror movie. Next up, I watched something called Boo. This is from the executive producer of Insidious and I believe of Sinister. This movie is a haunted house movie. Starts off with a veteran kind of loses his shit, pulls a shotgun out of his trunk, goes into his house, or into a house, and starts shooting people, including himself. Jump forward several years. A family is living in this house, and a bunch of spooky, haunted shit goes on. People seeing things, people hearing things, so on and so forth. The people who live in this house is an interracial couple. You have a husband who is one of them, one of those people everybody loves, just an overwhelming, over-the-top Bible beater guy, who I think it's safe to assume most of us would like. Not going to get into that. Then you have his wife. She is an obvious drunk. You have their teenage daughter, who is an over-the-top drama queen, always in trouble. The boyfriend's a problem. One of those just teenagers that we would all just like to just throw into a lake and drive away. And then you have their son, who looks to be 10-ish, 12-ish, something like that. And he seems to be emotionally troubled. Bunch of drawings all over his wall of shit that nobody wants to see in their child's room hanging on the wall. His whole bedroom is a bed and a nightstand, bed and a nightstand, and a bunch of horrible drawings up on the wall. So, like I said, you see a bunch of stuff in this movie that, is not so good. It's a haunted house movie. The problem with this movie was about an hour into it, I looked at my wife, I said, if you think about it, nothing has really happened yet in this movie. And this cover is incredibly deceiving. That's a pretty cool image. And you do see that in that movie, but I'd say you probably see that 15 minutes into the movie. If that, it might not even be 15 minutes into it, and you see it one time. So that's an example of a movie where the cover kind of draws you in, and then that's it. It doesn't. You literally are in this movie waiting for an hour and a half for something to happen, and really, nothing ever happens. The husband in this movie, it doesn't surprise me at all that the people who made it Sinister had something to do with this movie. The husband is very similar to Ethan Hawke's character in Sinister, the guy who wrote Kentucky Blood. I don't remember the character's name, but the actor is Ethan Hawke. The author in Sinister, which is Ethan Hawke's character, wrote a book called Kentucky Blood. This character reminds me very, very much of that Ethan Hawke character. This movie kind of fell flat for me, though, because you literally are waiting an hour and a half for something to happen, and then the movie ends, and you're like, whatever. So that's a movie where if you don't ever watch that movie, you ain't missing nothing, because nothing happens in that movie. All right, next up, I watched this one very specifically because the world got the very sad news a couple of days ago that James Caan passed away at age 82. I immediately said, all right, I'm going to go home and watch The Godfather tonight. And then my mind went, he plays a much bigger role in Misery. So I came home, what's today? Today's Saturday. So I think it was Thursday. Was it Thursday? Thursday, I believe it was. I came home and my son and I sat down and watched Misery. I've seen Misery a whole bunch of times, but my son had never seen it. So I was like, all right, well, you got to sit down here with me and watch this movie. This is the movie that basically put Kathy Bates on the map. Everybody already knew who the hell James Caan was, if you're into movies and that sort of thing. This is the movie that James Caan plays a character. He's an author named Paul Sheldon, wrote a book series featuring a character named Misery. Well, Paul is driving on a country road and there's a snowstorm and he crashes his car and he gets rescued by Kathy Bates. She portrays a character named Annie Wilkes in this movie. She picks him up, she gets him out of the car, saves his life, takes him home, but basically is holding him hostage once she finds out that he is the author of these Misery books. She happens to be she's his number one fan. If you've seen it, you know what I'm saying. So she keeps him in this house, basically locked in a room, inside of a bed. She hobbles him in this movie, which is one of the most horrid scenes in the history of horror cinema, in my opinion. She hits him. All right, I'm gonna spoil this for you too. She hits him in the ankle with a sledgehammer. Well, there's a big block of wood between his ankles, and when his foot flops over with that sledgehammer, you can feel the weight of that. It's just, you got to see it to believe it. It's one of the most painful scenes in the history of movies. But I watched that movie in particular. Like I said, I was going to watch The Godfather, absolute classic. But when I found out we lost James Caan, I wanted to watch something that had him in more of a feature role. That's why I watched Misery. So that sucks. I was told my wife yesterday, in the last roughly, I don't remember exactly when, Ray Liotta died, but 2 days ago we lost James Caan, and yesterday we lost Mr. Cicero. I can't remember if his first name was Tony. Was it Tony Cicero? Guy from The Sopranos passed away too. So we've lost a good fella, a Godfather, and a Soprano in the last month. I would hate to be an actor in like Italian mob movies right now. So yesterday, this is the sixth and final movie that I watched this week. Watched something called 247 Degrees Fahrenheit. This is also not a first-time watch for me. I watched this movie, it's got to be 2 or 3 years ago I watched this. Picked this up in Best Buy after looking at it in there for a while. Finally pulled the trigger on it when the price came down. That is a movie where I feel like they capitalized on it's almost like the all-star cast of horror franchise remakes. You got the guy who played the asshole character in the remake of Friday the 13th, and you have Tyler Mane, who played Michael Myers in Rob Zombie's Halloween films, and you have Taylor Scout Compton. Can never remember if that's her name, Taylor Scout or Scout Taylor. I believe it's Taylor Scout Compton. She played Laurie Strode in the Rob Zombie Halloween remakes. This film is a group of friends go out to Michael Myers' cabin. He's Tyler Mane's cabin. He's the uncle of one of the characters in the film. Go out to his cabin on the lake, and they're there to go party for a few days. He's got a sauna in his house. He's not home. The friends go in the sauna. There's 5 friends. One friend in particular gets especially drunk and high. He leaves the sauna. He screws it up. You know what? I'm not going to spoil too much of this. So 4 friends are stuck in this sauna as the heat rises and rises and rises to 247 degrees Fahrenheit. That actually is a surprisingly good movie. Pretty well made, pretty low budget. Again, I have to assume The vast majority of this money was probably spent on those 3 actors. And most of the movie takes place inside of a wooden box. They're stuck in a sauna. How exciting could that be, where you got 4 characters stuck inside of a sauna for an hour? Surprisingly pretty good. So, pretty imaginative movie here. Stumbled on that word. But pretty darn good. So, I highly suggest you watch that if you can find it. I don't know how easy that would be. Something tells me this is something you'd probably find now at like Big Lots or Dollar General or something like that is probably where you're going to find that. I don't think you're going to find that in a Best Buy anymore. So, easily the best movie that I watched this week should be no surprise whatsoever. It's definitely Jaws. Jaws is just one of the, in my opinion, the greatest movies made ever. I absolutely love Jaws. And also, to nobody's surprise, I think that the clunker of the week is Boom. Plenty of potential, had good producers behind it, but you literally wait the entire movie for something to happen, and not a whole lot really ever does. So that's it. I'm going to get out of here. If you guys have seen any of those movies, let me know what you thought of them down below, whether you agree with me or you disagree with me, and either way, why? If you've seen all of them, which one was your favorite? And which one was your least favorite? If you guys like heavy metal reactions, jump over to Project Ellsworth Reacts and listen to some music with me. And if you'd like to have lunch with me and my wife, jump over to Project Ellsworth Eats. All right, I'm getting out of here. If you guys like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you really like this video and you've been enjoying my content up to this point, please do me a huge personal favor. Click that subscribe button and ring that bell. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Have a kick-ass day. Thank you for watching, folks. See you in the next one.